Hey, beautiful people of the internet, how are you guys doing today? Hopefully great. We are of course going to be talking about the top 5 helmet abilities that you should not ignore in Warframe of 2023. If you guys are brand new to Warframe, Helmet is a special system which allows you to then go and transfer one Warframe ability to the other. Quick disclaimer, all of these abilities that I'm about to talk to you guys about are purely based off of my opinion and are subject to my personal playstyle. So of course, naturally you guys are going to have different thoughts on it as we don't all have the exact same playstyle type. So starting off strong and taking up our number 5th spot is an ability called Eclipse, which can be retrieved from Mirage once you guys then go and sacrifice her to the helmet system. The key word here is light, as that's a big contributing factor depending on how Eclipse does go and work. Now Eclipse allows you to then go and increase your damage or give yourself damage reduction depending on where you guys are standing, and on top of that it does scale based off your power strength except for the other mod. So Eclipse, if you guys are staying in the sunlight, you'll then be given an increase to your overall raw damage of multiplicable damage. Without any mods added whatsoever and in neutral state, you guys are looking at around 150% extra raw damage, which applies to pretty much everything. Think of it as a universal damage mod for everything: your primary, your secondary, and of course your melee. And definitely the same thing can be said to exalted based abilities. Now Eclipse, if you guys are staying in the dark, you can then go and give yourself an increase to your damage reduction of 75%. However, because we're then going and using helmet, we're not going to be able to then go and increase our damage reduction any further, but we don't really care about the damage reduction that much. We're mostly interested in the amount of damage you can then go and give us. So if you guys have got around 323% power strength, you guys are looking at around 480% ish more multiplicable damage, which is a ton of damage considering how you'll be able to then go and nuke an entire room. Moving to our 4th ability, we do have one called Terrify. If you guys want this one, you have to then go and sacrifice Necros. So a very long time, Terrify used to be the most underwhelming ability for a number of reasons. A, we had no steel pass, so if we want to then go and fight higher end enemies, we would have to then go and stay in a survival for at least 1 to 2 hours. And at the end of the day, your average Warframe player most likely doesn't have that kind of time. B, if you want to then go and strip the enemy's armor, you had to have at least 200 to 250%. Nowadays, all you need is exactly 169% power strength, if you know what I mean, wink wink. And on top of that, we also did not have helmet, so therefore this particular ability was just there for show and tell. But here in the year 2023, it is back with vengeance. Terrify is actually one of the best helmet ability to go and use there, mainly because A, it can go and provide crowd control, which is very good, especially if you guys are doing long endurance runs. Crowd control is key just because of the fact that it gives you that time to go and have a breather, go and recover your shields, go and cast your abilities, etc, etc, etc. And also it can go and strip the enemies through walls, which is very good, especially if you guys are a vault player who likes to then go and nuke the rooms. But at the end of the day, I still am going to be staying to my word. Vault is not the best nuke. There are better options out there. But hey, this is your game, your playstyle. Go and play to your heart's content. I'm just here to go and guide you guys to what I feel is the right direction. With our 3rd ability, we do have Roar. This can be obtained with Rhino if you sacrifice him. The way it works is simple. All you have to then do is go and activate this ability. You'll then go and buff yourself and near allies with raw multiplicable damage, and this is a universal buff. That means that your primary, secondary, and melee weapon will receive the buff or be benefited from it, and the same thing can be said to other damaging Warframe abilities. However, there is one piece of equipment that doesn't not get influenced by Roar, and that is your operator amps. The only friend that can go and do that is Vault, hence why he is very popular when it comes to Eidolon hunting. Because remember, in order to then go and break the Eidolon shields, you have to then go and hit them with void damage. Coming in at our 2nd ability, we do have Smite. Now in order to go and get this one, you have to then go and sacrifice Oberon to the helmet ability or the helmet system. Now Smite is an extremely underrated ability, and I highly suggest people then go and take a look at it, especially if you guys want to then go and deal with either Archons or Eidolons, or mainly Archons, because Archons have a much bigger hit pool when it comes to actually going and fighting them. So Smite by itself doesn't really do anything fancy. All it does is you can then go and kill the enemies with radiation damage. The magic comes from its augment called Smite Infusion, which will allow you to then go and enhance your primary, secondary, and melee weapon with radiation damage. So what you want to then do is go and add a ton of Forma to your primary or secondary weapon, whichever you feel is your main damage weapon at the time, and then go and mod for radiation. This will then stack with Smite Infusion. The same thing can be said to your allies, assuming that they're within your range, just like how every other ability works. What makes Smite Infusion even better than any other buff is, let's say that you guys are already dealing with a Warframe and want to then go and stack buffs with the helmet system. It doesn't work that way. Smite Infusion, however, does stack up with other buffs and is not considered the timer based buff like you know how Roar does. I don't know how to explain, but it is considered a different type of buff where you can then go and stack it up with other enhancements. So I hope that makes sense. Overall, Smite Infusion is an absolutely insane yet underrated ability, and I highly suggest people go and use it. And finally, moving on to our top spot is an ability called Specter Rage, which can be obtained from Gara. Now, this does not mean that Specter Rage is the best helmet ability in the game. This is simply a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is all position based. As remember, that is subjective and purely depends on whatever your lot is and what your playstyle currently is. But at the end of the day, Specter Rage is extremely powerful. What makes this particular ability so good is not what it does by default, but what its augment does, called Specter Siphon. Now, Specter Siphon will then grant you a 50% chance to drop an energy orb if an enemy is killed within the circle of Specter Rage. This is very good, especially if you guys do have a lot that has like a negative efficiency build, you know, with a lot of power strength and negative efficiency for some strange reason. And on top of that, combining Specter Siphon with the Archon shards, I believe it's the blue one. Therefore, you can go and free out a slot or an Arcane slot. So normally you'll always have to be running around with Arcane Energized plus Y Arcane. Do remember to take a look at the rest of my Warframe videos. I make some pretty awesome content. I'll be showing them there on screen now. There will be others down in the description, and on top of that there will be some at the top right. So go ahead and take a look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys have enjoyed this video, do remember to leave a like on this video, as it does help me out substantially. Spartan, click the subscribe button for more Warframe videos and streams. Remember, we do also have a Discord server, so if you guys are interested, go and join it. There will be a link down in the description. I'm Mac like a banana and split.